Yo, my peoples, what's up? Welcome to the One Stop Co-op Shop. Jason here, and today I have a feature of Alien Frontiers Edition X. You might have heard of Alien Frontiers. It is one of the OGs. One of the original Kickstarters, has gotten many editions across the years, and this is the definitive edition with 3 expansions included in the box. It is a worker placement dice rolling style game where the dice are the workers. We've gotten many games since then along the way. Kingsburg, Role Player evokes that sense behind my shoulder, Fantastic Factories, but this one stands the test of time. It's still one of the best in the genre. This one is a 2 to 4 player competitive game, so you might be asking, why am I talking about it here in the One Stop Co-op Shop? We talk about solo and co-op here. Well, it's one of those games that I wish had a solo mode. If I had to make a list, it would be near the top of that list. And it's been true for years. There used to be an app that was live, and I'd play the heck out of it. It's gone the way of the Dota, which made me really sad. But now that I have the Edition X, it makes me want more than ever to take a crack at a solo mode. So I figured, let's crowdsource it. We have an amazing community of folks who enjoy games, who noodle around all their favorite games, come up with different ideas for solo bots. So what I want to do in this video, I'll feature the game. It's an excellent game for your collection, regardless of whether you solo it or not. I'll feature some of the expansions, and then I'll give some ideas and concepts towards a possible solo mode and invite folks to give it a crack. If you can come up with something, share it in the show notes, share it on BDG. I would love to take a look. Disclaimer, I was sent a review copy of the Edition X version. Here is the base game fully laid out for Alien Frontiers. In this game, you are a spacefaring civilization trying to spread your influence. You're going to start the game here in your personal area with your 8 colony pieces, as well as the thing that makes it all go, your spaceships, which are represented by these dice. Now, there are 2 things about this game that I totally adore, and I'll tell you about one of them right now. So in a dice worker placement game, usual stuff, you are going to roll, and then you are going to assign individual workers depending on what you roll. Now, in a game like Stone Age, one of the first dice worker placement games, you rolled high, you get a bunch of stuff. You rolled low, not so much. They figured out in Alien Frontiers that any roll is good depending on where you want to go. Each space has a different condition. So if I wanted to go to the Raiders Outpost, if I had rolled a sequential set 654, I can go here. Or if I don't get my roll for that, then I can go to the Lunar Mine, place a die here, and this has an ascending requirement. So then I would put another die there if I wanted to go and get this valuable Lunar Mine resource. What I love about this is that you can roll anything and accomplish something. You roll high and you want to go to a certain place, great. You roll low, then you can look for other places. You can try to combine sets. You can manipulate your dice. You are never shut out. There's always excellent choices no matter what you roll. It depends on how skillfully you use the dice, not what you particularly roll. That's great. So what am I doing with my spacefaring workers? Plenty. So I can go to places where I can gather resources like energy and the aforementioned lunar dust. I can do conversions to get the thing that I need. I can also acquire new ships. So then I can eventually get my 4th, my 5th, or my 6th ship and have an entire armada to surround all these areas. The thing that pushes play are getting out your colonies. So then you could do it the slow, steady way by placing a die and progressing your colony along this track. You can hurry it up a little bit by having 3 lunars and 3 dice that are the same and get a colony going that way. Or you can toss one of your pilots out of one of these spaceships and tell them you must land on a colony right now. That's super fun, especially at the end of the game, or if you have a strat that takes advantage of that fast building colony. Once you are able to place one of those colonies, you'll find a place on the map, and then you will take that tile. The tile is worth a point, and it also gives you a power, which generally makes one of the outer spaces either cheaper or more lucrative, so you can really mold your strat that way. But you have to be careful, because if another player comes in and gets majority, then they can take this tile from you. So there's a back and forth tug of war for these spots. Sometimes you'll have games where everybody's kind of like doing their own thing. You can kind of fire off your engine. Sometimes it gets really nip tuck and tiles go back and forth, back and forth. Besides the tiles, there are also the alien tech cards, which really blow out the game, give you a lot of room to maneuver. You have your powers, you have ways to get extra points. And so that brings me to the other thing that I enjoy about this game. Most worker placement games I find are on the strategic, almost multiplayer solitaire end of things. Here, it's much more interactive. You got to change your strat depending on what's happening at the time, so more tactical rather than strategic. So I may have built a set of powers and abilities that lends me to one way, but I may have to do something completely different in order to, say, take a tile from my enemy and therefore change position on the board. So it keeps me on my toes. That is something that not every player likes. I think some people like that multiplayer solitaire feel. So in Alien Frontiers, you're getting something completely different. Please watch out for that. But if you like that nip-tuck action, then this game really provides that. I'll talk about some considerations for a soul design in a little bit. First, because this is the definitive edition, it includes 3 of the noteworthy expansions for Alien Frontiers, and I'm going to show them to you from my least favorite to my most. So first of all, you have the faction boards, which adds asymmetry. In the basic game, everyone is the same. Here, you can choose one of these boards, and you get a power. So either you can go and do the power, and don't pay anything, or someone else can come to you and fire off that power as well. This one really blows out the strategic possibilities in Alien Frontiers. There's a lot of them. My only concern here is that there's some combinations that can kind of make for corner cases, break the game a little bit. I know players enjoy that aspect of things. I like the core experience a little bit better, but the factions boards are available for you. The second module I'll feature is the outer belts and the asteroids. So then it gives you more potential spaces on the side of the board for your dice. Each of these cards gives you a discard power. So the alien tech cards tend to be kind of always on powers. Here, if you're short on something, if you're short on lunar dust or energy, or if you want to do a quick conversion, then this is a good option to be like, all right, I need to really pivot fast, or I need to get something done fast. I'm going to go ahead and claim an asteroid. I find that very useful for those kinds of games. My favorite module, because it is so simple to implement and it is so useful, especially for newer players, which is what I tend to play this game with, is the factions expansion. So each faction, players would get one. It gives you an easy to understand in-game objective. When you achieve something during the flow of the game, get a point, and also a point for an end-game objective. They're kind of like the leaders in Seven Wonders, if you know that game, or any game in which you give a player an immediate goal, something to start with. That can look like a lot for a new player, but if you give them this card, it's like, okay, go for that first. That gives them an entry point into playing the game. I love the factions. I tend to play with these every time. Now, what would one have to do in order to develop an effective solo mode for Alien Frontiers? I think there are 3 areas to consider. The first would probably be the easiest thing. It would be the worker placement spots. The way it works in Alien Frontiers is that once you roll your dice, the dice are there. So if I placed a 5 here and you could only place a greater die, you would have to go around the table looking at my die. So if this person rolled this, they could not go to the lunar mine. They'd have to do something to get rid of the die or get lunar dust some other way. Plenty of other worker placement solo bots do that, either through a die roll or a card flip. They would place their worker and you have to deal with being in the way. That's probably pretty easy. The second area of concern for a potential Alien Frontier solo bot would be how to deal with this middle area. So as I take tiles and plant colonies, the bot would be planted colonies as well. How to determine what tile the bot places. You can do it randomly. That would be okay. A lot of the BGG variants kind of have a randomizer for where it goes. That's not as satisfying. I think what you would want to happen is the bot somehow being sensitive to where things are on the point total. So if it's kind of nip-tuck over here, then the bot could roll randomly, that'll be fine. Let's say I was kind of running away with the thing, then maybe the bot kind of goes after me more, replicating behavior that would be happening at the table. So if I'm doing really well, then a human player would want to go after me and deny me stuff more. Maybe the bot could do the same. And also, by the end of the game, then the bot would really want to take stuff away from me if it was eligible. I'm not exactly sure how to work all that out in terms of an automa deck or some kind of flow chart, but I would love to see somebody crack this nut. And finally, the single most aggressive spot on the board is the Raiders Outpost. Sometimes in games, nobody goes there. Sometimes it could be pretty much a melee. So in this area, you would put die that would be consecutive, and you would get rid of one of the die. And another player, you would steal 4 resources or one of their alien tech cards. Now, that's not as devastating as it sounds. Sometimes the player has plenty of resources to spare, but it could be a way to totally ruin somebody's day. Which in a multiplayer game that's pretty obvious. In a solo game, you kind of don't want the bot to have free reign at this. So once again, finding an intelligent way for the bot to have this as an option without it feeling unfair. I would love to see a solo designer take crack at that. Once again, that was Alien Frontiers Edition X, the base game, the expansions, and some thoughts that I had towards a solo mode. What are your favorite games that you would like to see a solo mode for? List them in the comments below. Maybe I'll take a look and throw some thoughts out there, invite a discussion, get that stuff crowdsourced so we can get solo modes for all of our favorite games. This is Jace with the One Stop Co-op Shop, reminding you that we'll see you at the next stop.